term this all sewage as a domestic sewage, how exactly it can be differentiated from industrial sewage. And we have also discussed the dry weather flow and wet weather flow. So dry weather flow, it is normally the flow which is going to happen in during the dry seasons, and the wet weather flow, it is normally considered in the rainy seasons. Means in the rainy seasons, you have the sewage also it will be there, followed by the rainwater also it will be there. And we discussed the different types of bacteria, um, aerobic bacteria, anaerobic bacteria, and facultative bacteria. Of course, we'll discuss in detail all these bacteria and what are their contribution in the municipal wastewater engineering. And we also discussed what is the sludge. Of course, during the sedimentation process, whichever is left out after digestion, that normally we can call it as the sludge. And we have two types of sources are there. Normally, the point sources and the non-point sources. The point sources, usually we can exactly calculate it, how much wastewater uh, is going to generate in each of the pipes. But in non-point sources, we cannot exactly calculate it, how much it is coming and how much it is going. So treatment of point sources is easy, and treatment of the non-point source or the non-point source pollution is very difficult. But best example is for the non-point source that I already yesterday I have not discussed that. One is best agriculture runoff water. Agriculture runoff water, it is very dangerous. Also, you cannot count it. Means you cannot quantify it properly. As we know that it is a major challenge nowadays, and many research is going on uh, for this calculation of agriculture runoff, as well as what are the contaminants are going to generate in this agriculture runoff water. Because nowadays, if you see the growing of foods uh, or growing of any of the plants, it require a lot of pesticides to be sprayed onto the plants. Uh, you can take it as insecticides, you can take it as herbicides, and some other related pesticides. Normally, we'll use it to our farmlands. So what will happen is that when it falls on the plants, whatever the pesticide or herbicides you are spraying on the plants, normally what will happen is that most of the time, the whatever the residue will be there, it will be transferred to the ground itself. And if you see the half-life period of this, uh, whatever the pesticides, it will be like years together. It will start from 1 month to around 20 years. Some pesticides are out there. If you take the endosulfan, uh, many problems has been happened in the Kerala belt. Still, many people are suffering from that, because whatever the endosulfan pesticide, they have used it for the cashew plants to control the pests which are attracting on to the cashew plants. And maybe it is in the year 1992, that time they have used it, and they used to spray these all from the helicopters, and some they used to spray on this endosulfan. But what has happened is that the growth or the yield was very good, but that time they did not know that what will be the side effect of this and what will be the half life of this. But if you consider, if you see that uh, now due to the infiltration process or due to the chemical actions or atmospheric reactions are going to happen in the earth crust. Whatever that endosulfan is there, it has reached to the groundwater now. And if you, in many places, it is high, means if you say the concentrations are there, different concentrations are there, means in some places it is very less, in some places it is very high. Wherever the cashew plants are there, wherever they have used it, there the concentration is very high. In other places, it is not that much. Of course, normally you know that the groundwater will flow from one direction to other direction. Once it is dissolved in that, so normally, suppose if we have, if we introduce the endosulfan at one point, you may get the endosulfan at other point because inflow will be there. Groundwater inflow will be there normally. Whereas that is what happened till now. The traces of that endosulfans are there in that belt. It's almost 20 to 25 years now. Huh? Many people have suffered from this, but now they have banned it. In 2005, they have banned it, but still in many places illegally they are using it. This is one kind of what we can call it as non-point source. So this is one kind. If you compare with others also now, for removal of the weeds, the unwanted plants from the agricultural land, nowadays they are using many herbicides from last 5 to 6 years, and especially wherever the growth of the sugarcane is there. So, but whatever the herbicides like 2,4-D, some of the Tamar type of herbicides they are using it, um, it will be there for the longer time in the soil, and if it enters to even it enters the water body also, it is more toxic to the human beings. See, once it is entered to the soil, sometimes during the rainfall or during the uh, runoff, it will carry with it, and ultimately it reaches to the surface water body, and slowly it will reaches to the groundwater also. So once this kind of pollutions are happening, we cannot count it from where, how exactly it is happening, because you have a lot of farmland will be there from where to where it is going and from where the it is entering. Especially during the monsoon season, whatever there in the soil, it will be dissolved in that and it will be carried to the lower portion of the water body. Always the lower uh, um, elevations, always it will be the carriers. The carriers are the rivers. Always the rivers will be at the lowest elevation, and most of the farmlands or the villages, it will be there at the upstream side. It is the normal situations. But whatever there in the farmland, it is going to be dissolved in that water, and it will reaches to the surface water body. Day by day, the accumulation is going to happen. Once mm, maybe it is a disaster also, if you consider some of the instances or whatever the activities we are doing at present. That is why always we have to target it on the some of the organic farming techniques, and how exactly mechanically you can remove the weeds rather than using the pesticide. That kind of technology we have to build to reduce the non-point sources. Non-point source pollution is now, it is challenging today, how to account it, how to calculate it, because we don't know what is happening and how exactly we can make it. So this is one example where uh, we are facing major challenges. So now, if you see the statistics of India, water demand, um, the water demand will be calculated as based on the population. Of course, you already studied this water demand uh, in your water supply the last year. But there you have mentioned that for different purposes, different demands will be there. As present now in India, if you see the statistics, if the population is less than 20,000, it will be 110. 20 to 50,000, it is 1 to 110 to 150. 50,000 to 2 lakhs, that is 150 to 180. And up to over 10 lakhs, it will be 240 to 270. But when you are calculating how much wastewater is going to generate for all these things, whatever the water demand is there, 80% of that it will be considered as the wastewater. Means that much wastewater is going to generate um, when you are using 110. Means even when you are calculating the wastewater flow, how much it is going to or how much it is entering into the sewer, it is hello. Basically, when you are calculating for uh, the inflow to the sewers, then it will be calculated based on the water demand itself. But these are all the statistics of India. But normally we'll take it as 135 liters per capita per day wherever you go. Now it is standardized. But in what will happen in some of the major cities, the demand is little bit higher because uh, normally if you see many of the mm, um, big metropolitan cities, the water requirement will be more due to the um, they will be using different types of flushing systems. Uh, almost they will use the washing machines which requires a lot of water. In that cases, as the population is gone increasing, the demand is also gone increasing. But normally we'll consider it as 135 liters per capita per day as a standard. And remember that 80% of that will be the wastewater which is going to generate and which is the inflow to the all sewers. So now this is very important, the paradigm shift. What exactly this paradigm shift is? This I already discussed in the past. If you go back to the 6, 7 years or 10 years back, the wastewater was a problem. Now it is considered as a resource. I already said we have to, in the first day of my class, I said that um, I made the municipal word as a red, then we have to make it as the green. Means we have to uh, learn the things so that whatever the wastewater is there, we have to treat it and we have to reuse it for different purposes, at least for the gardening purpose. In most of the countries, uh, they are using even for drinking purposes. Such like wherever if you go back to some of the Israel is one country where you can see most of the water treatment technologies or water wastewater treatment process or water wastewater treatment, it is a unique, and they are going to develop because uh, it is like necessity for them because there is a very scarcity of water is there. They have to use the seawater only. If you go back to, if you see the history of Israel, they are using the seawater and they are going for desalination process. Desalination means uh, to make it potable or to make it drinking water from the seawater. Uh, If you see the capacity within a 1 minute, they have built a technology nobody is having till today. In 1 minute, some of the treatment plants means the desalination plants are there. In 1 minute, they are going to purify 20,000 liters. Means 20,000 liters of water it is going to desalinate and it will give you the drinking water within a 1 minute. That kind of technologies they have, because and they have built some of the micro irrigation systems also. What this micro irrigation systems means, with less use, less water use, high yield. If you go to any Israel country, you will not find any flooding technique of uh, farming. Flooding means um, directly introducing into the farmland for growing of any plants uh, without any drip irrigations or micro irrigation systems. If you see the hydroponics techniques, means from the atmosphere, whatever the water content will be there, that will be used for growing the plants. So that kind of techniques they have in India also. They are implementing slowly. Normally, we can call that as Israel techniques. Israel techniques for the micro irrigation systems. Because in India we have plenty of water is available. We have many plenty of rivers are there. Each around 100 square kilometer area we have one small rivers are there. Lot of groundwater is also available. But as the time progresses, we have to shift to that technique so that the water resources can be conserved. At least when it comes to the um, irrigation systems, because irrigation requires a lot of water, and we have to adopt to that where in which crop if you grow it, which requires very less water. So that kind of challenges are there in India. Less use of water and high yield. That kind of technique has to be built up. Slowly it is going, uh, but it takes longer time because in India we have plenty of water resources are available. When necessity is there, normally uh, the searching will be there, and they will definitely go for the research. Best example is that new water scheme in Singapore. Of course, this new water scheme in Singapore is very innovative technique where you can conserve the more water, and the zero discharge concept. Of course, the zero discharge concept means uh, whatever the wastewater is releasing, for example, 100 liters of wastewater is releasing, the same 100 liters of water have to reuse it for different purposes. And recycled water, of course, the reuse and recycled are totally different. Just imagine that um, recycling of most of the industrial wastewater can be done. Reuse means whatever the things are there, with small alteration we can do that. Of course, we'll differentiate in detail how exactly um, three R's are there that always we have to target it: reduce, recycle, reuse. Normally, we can call it as three R's, 3R concept in the same concept is there in your the solid waste management also, and here also. That will differentiate or that will discuss in detail in the further classes, because many times we'll use this recycled water, reuse water. We'll exactly will come to know um, how exactly this can be done, how exactly recycled, which are the processes are there to recycle it. which are the processes are there to reuse it, which are the processes are there to reduce it. So then a treated wastewater for groundwater recharge as well as the irrigation. Normally, even if you are not using it for drinking purpose or any other domestic purpose, at least we can use it for the after treatment of the wastewater. At least you can use it for the groundwater recharge as well as the irrigation purpose. Uh, Many research is going on related to how exactly the wastewater can be used it for the irrigation purpose, because if you properly link that whatever the wastewater is there to the irrigation purpose, a lot of demand related to the irrigation sector that can be reduced. I've given one example that uh, in Mangalore, the whatever the domestic sewage it is there, they are treating and that they are using it for the running the industries, and they are selling 2 rupees per liter for the MRPL, whatever the municipal corporation Mangalore, that they are selling that treated water to the industry, that is MRPL, and they are charging 2 rupees per liter. What will happen is that, especially during summer season, lot of demand will be there. When the lot of demand will be there in that season, normally the industrial sector or the government will not give any for the industrial sector, because the primary importance will be given to first drinking water, second irrigation, third it will be industrial purpose. So when during that cases, if the water is not available, the government will direct to the industries as well, industries, so that you can close or you can modify your processes, or you can shift wise you can start it. During that season, normally demand for the industrial sector it will be high. So because some of the industry you cannot close it. For example, refinery industries, oil refinery industries, if you close it, whatever the petrol, diesel, whatever it is there, um, you cannot get at that time. A refining process has to happen every day. Then, for example, some of the thermal power plants, it requires a lot of water for cooling purposes. That is also water demand is very high. Even you cannot close that industry because you need electricity for every time. These are kinds of some of the industries that they cannot close it, and the demand is very high. In that cases, if you are treating the wastewater, if you are giving to the industry, definitely it will be an economic value for the revenue for the government. And if you build a proper technology, then it may not be any problem for you as well as for them also. Now, the estimation of the sanitary flow, the sewage discharge, how exactly this sanitary sewage can be estimated? I already said that 80% of the wastewater is going to generate from the water demand. For example, if we have 100 liters, so 80 liters of the wastewater is going to generate. The sewage discharge which has to pass through a sewer must be estimated as correctly as possible. Otherwise, it is inadequate. It will be overflow, and it is not a good economic investment also. So three things has to keep it in mind when you are estimating the sanitary sewage flow. One thing is sometimes it is overflow or it is going to overestimate most of the time. And once you overestimate it, so it is going to affect the economic value of that sector. So then quantity of sewage, whatever it is there, you have to always count it for the domestic as well as the industrial domestic sewage. We already differentiated that domestic sewage and industrial sewage. So here two terminologies are there. One is industrial sewage and industrial wastewater. So sometimes if the major industries and minor industries are there, or large scale industries or small scale industries are there. If what the government of India has suggested to all control boards that if the large scale industries are there, they should have their own treatment plants. They are not supposed to um, give their wastewater to the normal municipal wastewater treatment plant. If small scale industries are there, if water characteristics are reasonable, or if the quality of the wastewater is similar to the domestic wastewater, then it can be introduced into the domestic sewers. It can be included. There it can be calculated how much it is going to make it. But as maybe in other, if you go back to, if you another 2 or 3 years progresses, whatever the word we are talking about, the quantity of sewage, it is only the domestic sewage. It may not be an industrial sewage. What is happening is that most of our domestic wastewater treatment plant or municipal wastewater treatment plant um, are facing a lot of problems for the quality of treatment. Quality of treatment in the sense efficiency of the treatment. What is happening that most of the small scale industries are there. They are releasing their wastewater into directly the domestic sewage. When it is going to mix with the domestic sewage, most of the bacteria or the useful bacteria which are involved in uh, the treatment of the wastewater are going to die. Once they are going to die, you may not get the efficiency of the treatment process. Means you cannot get the good quality of water after treatment process. Then, when you are calculating the net quantity of the sewage produced, uh, that is equivalent to estimated wastewater generation rate. When it comes to the rate, always you have to concentrate on the per day or per minute or per capita. Always it's a per time. When it comes to per time or per day, whatever it is there, always the rate, it is always the denominator, it will be the time. So then some of the unaccounted private water supplies, that also you have to consider it when you are designing it. If you don't consider it, then normally the overflow is going to happen. And plus infiltration process. Wherever the joints will be there, the infiltration is going to happen. Then the water losses and water will not enter into that. Whatever the water, that has to be deducted. So then different methods for domestic wastewater disposal are there. Maybe these are two methods are there: conservancy system and water carriage system. Conservancy system, it is the old system, what will target it, and water carriage system, of course, it is the regularly what we are following today. Conservancy system, it is a open defecation system. Water carriage system is whatever the human faces or this one will be there. That is going to mix with the water and it will be discharged to the sewer. Of course, these two methods um, we will discuss in detail this conservancy system and water carriage system in the next class. So if you have any doubts regarding whatever the slides we have covered today or whatever the syllabus we have covered today, that you can ask one by one. If anything is there, or you can put it in the chat box, not a problem. And it is very important question also. The conservancy system and water carriage system, normally they will ask and one question will be there in your external examination. Different methods for domestic wastewater disposal. Okay, if no questions are there, we'll wind up the class. Huh? Okay, thank you.